What's up, everybody, and welcome to ESO Daily. I am your host, Mystic Raven. All right, so I'm still kind of having problems getting into the PC, so I've resorted to going back to the PS4 at this moment, because at least I can get in. I can get on the PC, but I'm crashing. But in today's video, I really wanted to go over the proc sets and how you multiply damage and deductions with proc effects. So this is kind of a confusing or gray area for a lot of people, because sometimes they'll put a proc set as a primary, not running a static effect. That can affect your proc's performance. Also, they don't take into consideration penetration deduction, which can also affect proc performance. So in this video, I kind of want to explain that, kind of go over it, and just kind of give you a general idea of how you can get the most out of your proc set. So I'm just playing around. I'm not running anything crazy, but I'm going to use my Krag's Visage set for an example in this video. Basically, what I'm looking at is when I deal damage, I have a 10% chance to spawn Drog's limbs to create shockwaves in front of me, dealing 1,617 physical damage every 0.4 seconds for 1.2 seconds. This can occur every 3 seconds. That's a proc effect. So basically, anything that you're looking at as far as a monster proc or a set proc is it'll give you an indicator. Now, the funny thing about this was, when I was playing with different sets and combos in the past, I noticed anytime I could increase some of the base damage, my proc damage would increase, right? So there was a base value and it would scale. But a lot of times I was losing damage on procs due to the penetrating value. I'm going to go to my little house with my target skeleton, and I'm going to show you how that works, and of course how you can get the most out of your proc set and scale this up to show you, to kind of give you an indication of what you can lose, what you can gain, these determining factors. All right. Going to the keep, man. Telling you, it's crazy. I don't know what's going on with PC. I mean, it was dead when I went in there, and then there was 2 people dueling, and then all of a sudden I turn around and I get kicked. Can't log back in, kicking me back to carry. I don't know what's going on with PC. I have no idea. None whatsoever. All right, so one of the things I want to show you guys once again is how much max damage it can do. It can deal 1,617, right? Okay, so I don't have any idea what my penetrating value is, so I have to kind of add that up manually. But because we can go into the champion points and determine in our trait values. So for example, I'm running sharpen. So sharpen, except on this hand, but I'm running Nernholm and sharpen. So I have 2,580. So, but the Nernholm will not affect the base damage of the Krog. So I can unslot it, right? Go down, and it's unaffected, even though it gives me weapon damage, right? I'm getting weapon damage from it, but it's not increasing the value. So when I go into the character sheet, my weapon damage is 811 currently. But if I put on the Night Mother's Nernholm, I go back into the character sheet, now I have, 2,715 weapon damage, just from slotting and deslotting it. But as you guys can see, I go back down and I get no increase, right? There's no increase due to my weapon damage. So nothing. And on my max I can deal is 1,006. So I'm just going to weave until I can proc it. Right there, 1,394 is what it's dealing, right? $1,426. Now I'm getting the proc from the weapons, hence why it's scaling up a little bit, but I'm not dealing the 16 from the proc, because my penetrating value is way too low. Just, there it goes. So 3 times, and I'm still not getting anything. anything past the 1,426. Even though it says I should be able to do 1,617. That's because my penetration. I need more pen, right? So when I go into the champion points, I go over here, I can now increase my penetration value to get closer to that cap as much as possible. Now I'm dealing 1507 or $15.07. So see, it scales up. Penetration is a factor for how much you can get that up to, along with your buffs from your weapon trait. So, or from that. So it's kind of crazy how that works, because you definitely want to get up close to how much you need enough penetration to get close to the cap, which is 1,617. Now, a lot of people are going to ask, well, how do I get my proc sets to deal more damage? Well, most proc sets, have a direct effect. So when I go into a champion point, right, and let's say I deduct from Thaumaturge here. So I'm going to reduce Thaumaturge, and we'll go down to 10, a little over 10. And then I want to go ahead, I can put into Mighty, which would affect all my base damage. And then I can go into Master of Arms and pump this up. Okay, I'll give a couple points to spare. And then when I go back in, now I'm dealing more damage with my procs, my procs effect. So that is how you can scale up your proc effect. Is if it's a direct damage, most of it is, most don't have a dot effect. If they're a dot effect, obviously you want to take pay attention whether it has a primary and secondary effect, and whether Thaumaturge or Master at Arms is going to be the determining factor for your proc's damage. But penetration is going to deduct the difference from your proc's effect. So you need penetrating value to increase the max of what your proc can deal, and that's 1705 in this case scenario. So what I'm losing in penetrating value, it's getting deducted. If I want to scale the damage higher on a proc effect, I need to take a look at a CP or something that's going to scale it, keeping in mind that something with weapon damage isn't going to apply that for some crazy reason. Don't know why. Now, let's also take a look at... I think I have it. No, that's not what I wanted to do. Okay, so I'm going to throw this buff on, and then I want to go ahead and take a look at my procs effect now. Now it's raising it to 1805. Now you're going to be like, what the hell did you just do? Okay, so I'm giving relentless focus. I actually didn't. I don't think it... Well, hold on. I want to make sure I'm accurate on this. Wait for it to wear off. Yeah. So when I add a self buff like relentless focus, right, it's going to give me minor berserk, increasing my damage by 8%, right? That's going to also increase my monster or my procs damage. So procs don't crit. So the most I'm going to get out of that is by applying like the self buff, stuff like spell power cure, things like that can go ahead and increase the base damage of my procs effect. So if whatever I'm going to be able to do a buff, I'm going to get more out of the procs damage. But it's not going to crit ever. But penetration, once again, depending on how much penetration I have, is going to be a determining factor. So I can deal 1805. But I'm only dealing 1486 because my penetration's not up. Okay. So there you go. I'm losing 400 damage because of penetrating value. All right, so keep that in mind, guys. Penetration is going to be very, very important for you when you're making your build, especially with stamina characters, because they don't have any penetration value in their passives. But when you want to go ahead and get more out of your proc effects and more out of damaging, all of these are determining factors. So I might not need crit. Let's say, for example, let's say I want to increase the amount that my proc can do. The one thing I'm not going to need, because procs don't crit, is precise strikes. I'm not going to get a proc. If I'm going to run a complete proc build, let's hypothetically say I'm going to run a proc build. Procs don't crit. They did away with that. So I can actually afford to get rid of this, right? I can completely afford to dump it. I can just completely dump it down. Dump down this, right? Go into my Master at Arms. We can bump this up. Maybe 21, and then put more into my piercing, because I'm going to need more penetrating value. I'm cool with that. All right. Now when I go in, I'm dealing 1743 prior to the buff. Add the buff. Sorry. Now when I go into the this, I'm dealing 1843. So I can scale this up, right? Okay, 1387. And that's how you kind of use penetrating values to determine how much damage you're losing, right? Off the max and what you're gaining. So 1387 when I should be dealing 1743. Yeah. 1843 with that. So I definitely need even more penetration. And keep in mind the next DLC, this is why the lever is going to be very important for certain builds. All right. But I just kind of wanted to go over this. You know, a lot of people are like, does proc sets deliver more burst damage? Not always. Because the thing you got to take in consideration is static effects. If you're going to be using a static effect as a multiplier towards your proc's capability or how much it can push out. Once again, this is another reason why I'm never going to tell you guys there's a best in slot, because these are factors that's going to, you know, determine the overall result of your build, right? So these are different variables. So yeah, if you have any questions or comments, please post below. Once again, I want to thank you for watching, and as always, have a nice day.